Many of your books have a Ohio setting.
Well, I've lived in Ohio all my life. They don't let me out much, so this is pretty much what I know. Write what you know. I know Ohio.
The very first book I read of yours, Faking It, years ago, I thought, oh, German Village.
German Village. I was living in German Village when I wrote that.
So, but that was obviously a recognizable, true-to-life venue, and you mentioned Columbus, but some of your others, Temptation, some of these others are in towns that are...
Well, they're constructs. Now, I grew up in Wapakoneta, so, you know, 17 years in a small town, and there's a particular vibe to that. So the town in Tell Me Lies and the town in Welcome to Temptation. Tell Me Lies was really based on Wapakoneta. Welcome to Temptation is more of a further southern, but it's still that vibe. And I now live in a small town. In fact, my next book after this one is going to be set in the town that I live in now with a different name, and it's so tiny. There are 2,000 people there, but it's just, they're like little microcosms. I love Ohio to begin with, and then Ohio's small towns are fabulous.
Wonderful. Getting back to what I mentioned, Faking It, which was one of the first books that, actually the very first book that I read, and I reread it in preparation for talking with you.
Thank you.
Just, oh my gosh. Laugh, laugh, laugh. But I got to ask you about the men as donuts or muffins thing.
That just came up. I have no idea where that came from.
I wondered if it was part of your history or...
Well, it's part of every woman's history. It's not like that was a breakthrough thought.
But not in so many, yes.
I think it was at the time the Kroger's in German Village had a lot of orange pineapple muffins, and I was going on a reel, and somehow, you know, I'm typing with one hand and eating this orange pineapple muffin with the other, and it just got into the...
That was wonderful. Now you write in partnership with Bob Mayer.
Sometimes. We've done 3 books.
3 books. This was the first one. Or was this the first or the second?
That was the second.
Okay, the first one was the movie director. Okay,
yes.
Yes.
That's one where we were kind of finding our feet. This one, I love this book, she said modestly. This one I just really loved. And then this is the one that's coming out in May.
Wild Ride.
The names are going to be in brighter yellow. Bob and I looked at it and thought, you can't read our names. That's got to change. But everything else we loved about it. So that's in March.
Tell me about your partnership with him and how you write together. Bob Mayer is a Green Beret action
Born in
type
the Bronx
author.
Yeah. Hard drinking out there. Total antithesis from me.
How did you get together? How did you meet?
We were
decide on this partnership.
We were at the Maui Writers Conference, and Maui is a wonderful conference to teach at. It was fantastic. It was like summer camp with booze, and of course everybody down there is, you know, a published writer, and so you've all got the same traumas, and you're all sitting there talking about the same things. And so anyway, we'd go down there every night, all of us. And one night, Bob came over with a glass of white wine and handed it to me, and I said, thanks, and he said, we should collaborate. And it just kind of came out from the blue, and I was having a hard time anyway. I'd gone through menopause, I was going through menopause, and the voices in my head had gone away, and I was really having a hard time. And I had gotten 60,000 words into a book called You Again, and could not figure out, could not fight my way out of that book. So I needed a book to fulfill a contract, and I was really flailing, and he showed up with wine, which is always good. And I thought, this could be good. You know, he's so completely different from me, and I'm going to have to stretch to meet him halfway. And Bob really came more than halfway for me. I mean, he wrote very cold, third-person omniscient. It was all military. His body counts were always... You know, one of the fights we always had was about the body count. The fact that there was a body count, you know, I think in Don't Look Down, he killed 8 people. And I thought, 8 people? And he's going, only 8 people? I don't... So, you know, we had to meet in the middle. But it's been wonderful because he's really made me stretch. And I've, you know, like he said, he never rewrote before he met me. And now he's slavishly going over and rewriting.
I would think because you are looking at each other's, he's basically... taking care of the part of the
He's
male
got the male protagonist,
hero,
and I've got the female protagonist, and we have to. And the way we've always brought them together is we've given them the same antagonist. So they are drawn into this. They each got a different antagonist, and they end up joining together to fight this mutual antagonist. Now, Wild Ride is different because in the first 2, since I, you know, kind of made my name on romance, our protagonists always had they were the romance, they were the love affair, and in this one. Frankly, Bob and I were fighting so much at this point. I said, maybe they should have different love. And he said, and I really like that. It turns out that they're brother and sister. They find out in the course of so they have it freed us both up to have to write the kind of relationships we wanted to. So his guy has this wonderful woman who shoots on site. I mean, she's very macho, and I went back to the guy with the glasses who does research. So we were both very happy in this one.
And you do your writing, you share via email?
Email.
You're not in the same room.
There's a program called Campfire that you can have private chat rooms, and we go in there and yell at each other. We do a lot of email, a lot of swapping. Very rarely, we're both phone phobic. So if the phone rings and Bob's on it, I know something's wrong. But we catch up that way. And then a couple of times a book, he usually comes to Ohio and goes upstairs to the guest room and emails me stuff. Because he says, you and me, same zip code, not a good idea.
Not a good thing.
But it does move the storytelling forward a lot faster if we meet every now and then, so we can just hammer it out, and we find a lot of stuff out.
And you expect that this partnership will continue?
No, actually we don't.
Oh, all right.
This one almost killed us. So I don't know, it may be we're both, the whole world is changing. Everything's in upheaval. And we kind of looked at each other and said, check back with you later. So I'm back to solos now. I'm working on one collaboration that's still, we're having a good time with it. We don't know if anything will ever happen to it. But mostly I'm doing solos now.
And you've written with more than
Ann Stewart and Lonnie Diane Rich,
Dogs
my
and
two
Goddesses.
best friends, and that was fun. Working with your two best friends is good. I mean, we had a wonderful time.
Was it the same sort of collaboration?
Actually,
you each took a character.
Lonnie is, Chrissy and I, Ann Stewart, we're the same age. Lonnie is in her 30s. So she's about 20 years younger than I am. And I had met her and liked her a lot, and I said, we should try doing something together. And she had a good friend who was also in her 30s. And I thought, writing, just as writing with a different gender, with Bob, was a real stretch. I thought, I'm going to write with these women who are in their 30s, a completely different experience than I do, and see what happens. And actually what happened was that her friend had to drop out. She was writing a series that just took off, and they wanted more books, and she said, I can't do this. And I said, you know what? I have a friend. And I called Chrissy, and that's how Lonnie met Chrissy. And the three of us just, the relationship between the three women in this book is really the center relationship. And that relationship happened at the same time that our relationship happened, the three of us. So we're never really sure whether the book fueled our relationship or our relationship.
The other way around.
The three of us are extremely close now. So that book's always going to be special to me. And I think that closeness, that sisterhood, that's really a sisterhood book, along with the goddesses and the talking gods and all the stuff.
Of course, and the dogs.
And the dogs.
And the dogs.
But we just had such a good time with it. And we've all three been professional writers for so long that the idea that we were doing this book off a contract, we didn't have a contract, didn't want one, because we could go in and say, okay, the dogs talk. And if an editor had said, we didn't have an editor, the dogs talk. And after that, every time I'd say, I don't know if I can get away doing this, and Lonnie would say, the dogs talk. After that, we got them, do whatever you want. So we went places that I had never gone before, and that was a lot of fun.
And you just what you're saying about a lot of authors that have commercial success writing a certain thing will stick with that forever.
Well, you can easily become imprisoned in it. I mean, I'm still getting flack from people going, why are you doing this? And it isn't just the professionals. I mean, readers come up and go, why are you doing these collaborations? Because they're really exciting and I'm really learning a lot. And I understand they would rather I did solos, but I did 15 of those. Go read those. And now I'm going back to solos, but they're not going to be like the first 15 I did. Even those aren't, Faking It was nothing like Fast Women, which was nothing like, you don't want to write the same book over and over again. But if you want an Uber career, writing the same book over and over again, it's not a bad idea. I have a very short attention span. By the time I get finished with one of these, I'm sick of it. The idea that I do 26 or something of the same book.
But, readers develop a imaginary relationship with the author, and there are expectations, I think.
Well, I think with the internet, too, it's not an imaginary relationship, because I have a blog, and, we're very much, and plus romance readers are very hands-on. They really know the internet. They talk back and forth. You do guest blogs, and then we go to conferences. So it's not an imaginary relationship. I mean, they really do. I'm not terribly tactful or smart on my blog. It's kind of like, and today I'm going to, so they do know me.